what is the point of religion? You know, and when we answer that question, I guess we'll see if religion is important or not, if it's necessary or not. And I guess the one thing that's in common between all of the religions, whether we're talking about the three main Western religions, which are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, or we're talking about Eastern religions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, or other Eastern philosophies, we have the same theme, although it's a little bit different, but it's the same theme that's shared between all of them. And that is that there's a place of damnation, there's a bad place that a person can go to, and there's a place of salvation. There's a good place that a person can reach or go to. Sometimes this is heaven and hell. Other times it is in reincarnation, like either you're reincarnating in a worse condition, in an incarnation that's filled with suffering, or as a lower life form, or you're incarnating in a higher life form or a better position. The goal of religion then would be, we could say, it is the method or the way by which a person, if he follows these instructions, he can get to the better place or obtain salvation and avoid damnation. Would you agree?
Yes.
Is there any other point to religion other than that? People that say, for example, well, I'm not really in religion because I'm afraid of hell or because I want paradise, but I'm in religion because I want to be a better person. Even that mere wanting to be a better person, that's I guess salvation, right? In a way, because you're wanting to be better instead of worse. So in Judaism, the way that a person can reach salvation is by what? By upholding the Judaic laws. So in Judaism, they mainly believe that Moses spoke with God. Moses was a messenger of God. God had a set of commandments, a set of rules and laws, things that he wanted his chosen people to abide by. There's things that God didn't like, and there's things that God did like. And the way that a Jew can obtain salvation is through upholding, safeguarding these laws, and through worshiping God. So you worship God, you do the things that he asks you to do, and you avoid the place of damnation. If you break God's laws, for example, you don't circumcise your children, or you work on the Sabbath, or you break one of his commandments, then that could end up resulting in death or in the damnation of the person. In Christianity, a person, it's not so much about upholding the commandments of God.
Yeah.
In Christianity, a person, it's not so much about upholding the commandments of God.
Yeah.
Covenant, but then it also means that there's a whole new way in Christianity of obtaining salvation. That way of attaining salvation is through recognizing who God is and professing belief in that. So it's belief that leads to salvation. Is there anything else? Christianity is the one responsible for original sin. And because of the original sin, death came into the world. Yeah. And then God incarnated as Jesus in order that people may accept him, that he may sacrifice himself, and people recognize that. And then by that recognition, that the sacrifice of Jesus cancels out the sin of, it's like payment for the sin of Adam. And so why does death still exist after the sacrifice of Jesus? Why do Christians die? If their sin is taken away, and if death is the cost of sin, like it's the result of sin, that nobody dies except for the sinful, right? When Adam had sinned, death came into the world.
Yes.
And that's how they explain in Christianity the reason why there is death, right? And in Judaism, that death came about because people were bad, because God himself, I guess they recognize that, death is a painful thing. It hurts people. People didn't like to die. People didn't want to separate from their loved ones and from the world.
Right. It's a source of pain.
It's a source of pain. So when they were explaining, like, what is the reason behind the source of pain, they said that the reason why death came into the world is because people were bad. They didn't listen. They sinned against God. So death came to be. And then when Jesus died, he died without sin, right?
Yeah.
And that sacrifice that he made, his death without sin, because now he didn't have a price to pay, but yet he died.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's not now dying to pay for anything wrong that he did. This is like a malfunction now in the matrix, right? Because you can only die if you had sinned, but he didn't sin. But he died. So then there has to be a reason behind it. So what's the reason behind it? Then that would mean that all those who profess their faith in Jesus, they can die at peace and they will never be judged for anything because Jesus already paid for their sins by his death.
Yes.
But then why is it that they die? Because the whole concept, right, is that Jesus, by sacrificing himself and dying in exchange of the sins of other people, he had now negated the sin of Adam, the original sin of Adam. There's no more sin for the believers anymore. And he conquers death.
Yes.
And that's like a core, most important part of Christianity is that he dies, he goes to hell for 3 days in some views, right? Or he dies for 3 days, and then he comes back.
Yes.
And so he defeats death. There's no death anymore.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the promise that was made now to Christians is that anybody who follows Jesus, they too, by extension, don't have to suffer death anymore.
Yes. And yeah.
But then they die.
Yeah.
But
I know.
has there been anybody who has conquered death since the time Jesus? Is there any Christians that are still alive? And what's the point of the story of the resurrection? Right? Because he's not conquering like spiritual death. He's conquering physical death. He comes back, from the dead in this world,
Yes.
according to the Christians, right?
Exactly.
If it was about spiritual death that he conquered it, then Jesus would have just sacrificed himself on the cross and just went to heaven, and that would have been the end of the story. When Jesus was sent to the Jews, to Israel, was he sent as a sacrifice or was he sent as their king? Regardless of their expectations, like, what was the obligation, I guess, that rested upon the Jews in that day and age when Jesus came? If Jesus was coming to them as a king and a Messiah, then there seems to be this obligation upon the Jews that they have to give him victory.
Yes.
Yeah?
That was
They have to support him. They have to protect him from dying. They have to actually enable him to rule in order that Jesus spreads justice and equity.
Exactly.
Right? But if it was intended from the beginning that he's a king of heaven and he's not a king of earth, or that really like the whole meaning of it is that he's supposed to be sacrificed, then how can the Jews be blamed? I mean, shouldn't they be rewarded for contributing to the factors which led to his sacrifice? When Jesus was arrested, there's this scene in the Bible where he's being presented to, the Roman authorities, and he's asked, so are you the king of the Jews?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that
Yep.
sentence?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why would it be that the Roman authorities, who were not Jewish, ask him such a question? So they betrayed him or they did him a favor? Which one is it? Because then it also makes Judas Iscariot the hero of the story. So it's almost like Moses, he comes with the commandments from God, and he says that these are the commandments, we have to follow them, we have to abide by these laws. And then Jesus comes along and things change in the sense that he teaches, or Christians understand, that human beings are incapable of upholding the commandments of God. So it's not necessary to uphold the commandments, it's just necessary to believe in God and recognize Him. So in Christianity, if you professed faith in Jesus Christ, even if you broke the commandments of God, you would still be saved, you could still go to heaven.
Yes.
Okay. So then comes along Islam, and Islam now has also a new covenant. It has its own sets of commandments, its own understandings of salvation,